Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. This time we're taking a look at getting things done.
GTD.
GTD, yeah. This is a system from David Allen that has gotten some pretty serious praise from some pretty big names.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur,
Right.
fast company.
Yeah.
And it's all about helping you achieve this state of what Allen calls a mind like water.
I love that.
Yeah. So calm, clear, ready for anything.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into his book. We're going to dive into some of the research around this
Sounds good.
and see, does it actually live up to the hype?
Right.
And can you use it to really feel more in control of your work and your life?
Well, you know, it's interesting how much of our stress, I think, comes from just feeling overwhelmed with all the things we have to do. And GTD tackles this head on.
Okay.
Not just by, like, organizing tasks,
Right.
but by really changing how we think about commitments.
That's what really intrigued me about it. It's not just about, making lists.
Right.
It seems to go deeper than that.
Exactly.
So how does it actually work?
Well, GTD is built around 5 key steps.
Okay.
The first is you have to capture everything that has your attention.
Okay.
So everything from like that nagging errand to that big project idea, you got to get it all out of your head
Get it out.
into a trusted system, whether that's a notebook or an app or even like a physical inbox.
So no more trying to remember everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Get it all out.
I like that.
Download it from the RAM.
So what happens after we capture all this stuff?
Well, that's where clarifying comes in.
Okay.
You look at each item you've captured and you ask, what is this? Is it actionable?
Okay.
If it's not, toss it, file it for reference, or just put it aside for later. But if it is something you need to act on,
Right.
that's when you move to organizing.
Okay. So this is where our lists and calendars come in.
Exactly.
But I've tried, making to-do lists and things before.
Right.
But I always end up getting overwhelmed by them.
Well, that's where GTD gets really clever.
Okay.
It offers very specific ways to organize those actionable items.
Okay.
So anything with a deadline goes on your calendar.
Makes sense.
But for all those other tasks, you create these next actions lists.
Next actions. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that term.
Yeah, so it's all about breaking things down into the very next physical step
Okay.
that you need to take to move it forward.
Okay.
So instead of just clean the garage on your list, your next action might be call John Patrick to see if he wants that old fridge.
Oh, I see.
So it's much more concrete.
So make it less daunting.
Exactly.
Focus on that one step.
That one step.
Okay.
And you categorize these next actions by context.
Okay.
So you might have a calls list, an errands list, an at computer list, and so on.
Okay.
So then when you have a few minutes free, you can immediately see, okay, based on where I am and what tools I have available, what can I actually tackle right now?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's way less overwhelming than just staring at a giant to-do list.
Absolutely. And for any project that involves multiple steps, you create a projects list to kind of track that overall outcome.
Okay.
If it's something like planning a vacation or launching a new product, you have that on your projects list to make sure nothing falls through the cracks.
And make sure you're actually making progress on it.
Exactly. And then there's also a waiting for list for anything you've delegated to someone else. So you're not constantly checking in on them.
Right, like bugging people.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's like this comprehensive system for managing everything.
It is.
But is it really realistic to think we can capture and process everything?
Yeah, well, that's where the fourth step comes in, reflecting.
Okay.
So GTD isn't about being perfect.
Right.
It's about having a system to kind of regain control.
Okay.
And the weekly review is a key part of this.
Okay.
So you set aside time each week to go through your system, clear your mind, update your lists.
And basically get back on track.
So it's not just setting it up once and hoping for the best. It's about regularly checking in.
Yeah. It's got to be a living system.
And adjusting as needed.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so then the final step
is engage.
Engage.
That's where you actually choose what to do or not do in any given moment.
Okay.
And GTD gives you a framework for making these choices based on your context, your available time and energy, and your priorities.
So it's not just working through your list mindlessly.
No.
It's about being more intentional.
Intentional, yeah.
Okay.
And that brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of GTD, which is the psychology behind it.
Okay.
You see, a lot of our stress comes from these unfinished tasks that are just swirling around in our minds.
Don't worry about it.
Right.
Yeah.
We have all these broken agreements with ourselves.
Yeah.
Things we meant to do but haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah. And GTD addresses this through the capturing habit.
Okay.
So there's research in cognitive science, specifically something called the Zeigarnik effect.
Okay.
That shows that just writing these tasks down helps alleviate that mental burden.
So just the act of getting it out of my head
Yes.
can actually reduce stress.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it allows your mind to then focus on the task at hand.
Okay.
It's like you're offloading those mental files to a hard drive and freeing up your RAM to be more present.
Gotcha.
And productive.
Okay, now what is this Zeigarnik effect?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure I fully grasp how that works.
Yeah, so imagine your brain is like a computer.
Okay.
It has limited working memory, right?
Yeah.
And when you have a bunch of open tabs, those unfinished tasks,
Yeah.
it slows down your processing speed. The Zeigarnik effect basically says our minds keep reminding us of those open loops.
Okay.
They consume valuable mental energy.
Gotcha.
And GTD helps us close those loops, or at least move them out of the immediate mental workspace.
So by capturing them externally,
Yeah.
I'm basically giving my brain permission to let go of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is related to the idea of distributed cognition, where we can use external tools like our GTD system to kind of augment our thinking.
Okay.
We're not just relying on our, limited brain power.
Right.
We're creating this kind of external mind that helps us manage the complexity of our lives.
So giving our brains a break.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It is, and that mental clarity can be incredibly freeing.
Yeah.
It allows us to be more present, more creative, and ultimately more effective.
I like it.
In everything we do.
So it's not about becoming a taskmaster.
No.
It's about creating a system that supports our thinking.
Exactly.
And frees up our mental energy for things that really matter.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good.
But can you tell me more about this next action decision?
Yeah.
And how it helps us overcome procrastination?
Yeah, so it comes down to that breaking down those big, overwhelming projects into those concrete, actionable steps.
Right.
So instead of just having write a blog post, you ask yourself, what's the very next action I can take?
Okay.
So maybe that's open a new document and write the title.
Right.
It's about transforming those I shoulds into I cans.
I like that.
And that's where the magic of GTD really kicks in.
Okay, so it's not about trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
It's about clarifying,
Yes.
breaking things down,
Breaking it down.
and then that next action.
Yep.
Okay.
One step at a time.
It sounds like a really powerful way to kind of get over that overwhelm.
Oh, absolutely.
And actually start making progress.
It is. And remember, it's not about achieving this mythical state of perfect organization.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and gradually incorporating those principles and techniques.
Okay, so personalized system.
Yeah.
That evolves as we do.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the 5 steps.
Yep.
I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about actually using this.
Good.
But I am curious about, what does David Allen say about the bigger picture goals?
Yeah.
The ones that are not just checking things off a list.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's where GTD goes beyond just basic task management.
Okay.
He introduces this concept of the 6 levels of work.
6 levels of work.
Which range from your daily actions all the way up to your life purpose.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Yeah, so they're kind of like a hierarchy that helps you connect your day-to-day activities to your bigger goals and values.
So I'm not just busy.
Exactly.
I'm busy doing the things that matter.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, walk me through them.
All right, so at the most basic level, you have your current actions.
Okay.
These are those next actions we've been talking about.
Right.
The very next physical steps you need to take.
Like making that phone call.
Exactly.
Sending that email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you have your current projects. So those are the multi-step outcomes that require more than one action.
So things like, planning a vacation or launching a new product.
Exactly.
Got it.
And then we move up to areas of focus and accountabilities.
Okay.
So these are the different roles and responsibilities you have in your work and personal life.
So like being a podcaster.
Yeah.
A writer. A parent, a friend, a community volunteer.
Exactly.
Okay.
And thinking about these areas of focus helps you determine which projects are most important right now and how you actually want to be spending your time and energy.
Okay, I like how this is starting to connect our daily tasks to this bigger picture.
Yes, and it gets even bigger.
Okay.
Above areas of focus, we have the 1-2 year goals.
Okay.
So these are the specific things you want to achieve in the near future.
So more concrete than just those someday dreams.
Exactly.
Okay.
So those provide a roadmap for the next year or two. Then we move up to the 3 to 5 year visions.
Okay.
So this is where you start to envision your ideal future.
Okay.
What do you want your life to look like?
Right, like career goals.
Exactly.
Personal growth.
Yep.
Okay.
And then finally, at the highest level, you have your life purpose.
Wow. We've gone from that simple next action
I know, right?
all the way up to our life purpose.
It's the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
But the key is to regularly reflect on these different levels.
Okay.
And make sure your actions and projects are aligned with your overall goals.
Okay.
And values.
This is starting to really click for me.
Good.
But before we go any deeper,
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful to remind ourselves of the key benefits
Absolutely.
of GTD.
Let's do it.
So what are we really gaining by implementing this system?
Yeah, great question. So we were talking about the key benefits of the GTD, and, if we connect this back to the bigger picture, the beauty of GTD, I think, is that it helps you achieve that, mind, water state we keep talking about.
Present,
Yeah.
adaptable, not rigid and stressed.
Exactly. Exactly.
So how does GTD actually get us there?
Well, it all starts with that capturing habit we talked about.
Okay.
Get everything out of your head and into a system you trust.
Right.
That's really the foundation of the whole method.
Okay, so no more trying to keep it all up here.
Exactly.
We write it down, type it in, whatever works.
Yep.
But then what?
Well, then that's where the power of the next action decision comes in.
Okay.
So instead of staring at this huge project or this overwhelming task list, just ask yourself, what's the very next physical action I can take to move this forward?
So instead of write that report, it's open a new document.
Exactly.
Brainstorm an outline.
Exactly. You're shifting from this vague intention to a very concrete step.
Makes it so much easier.
So much easier, yeah. And this also, reminds me how GTD ties into those 6 levels of work we we're just talking about.
Okay.
You start with those tiny next actions, but they're ultimately connected to your bigger purpose.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just about efficiency.
No.
It's about aligning your actions with what truly matters.
Exactly.
It's a much more holistic system.
It is.
It's work and life.
It is, yeah. It encompasses all of it.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Good.
I feel like I'm finally understanding not just the steps, but the philosophy.
Yeah, the why behind it.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Just remember that GTD is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
So start with the basics, experiment, find what works for you.
Right.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection. I like that.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, I encourage you, give it a try.
Yeah, see if it helps you achieve that mind like water state.
And the rewards are worth it.
Absolutely.
Greater clarity, control.
More focus.
Who wouldn't want that?
Exactly.
So with that, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive on getting things done.
Sounds good.
We hope you found it insightful and that you're feeling inspired to create a more productive and fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep. Okay, so we're back and we're wrapping up this deep dive into GTD. I'm already starting to see how it all connects, from these everyday tasks up to those bigger goals. But for our listeners out there who are feeling that overwhelm right now, what's the main takeaway?
Well, the beauty of GTD, if we connect this back to that bigger picture, is that it helps you achieve that mind-like water state we keep talking about.
Okay, being present and adaptable.
Present, adaptable.
Not rigid and stressed.
Exactly.
But how does GTD actually help us get there?
Well, it all starts with that capturing habit we discussed earlier. Get everything out of your head. And into a system you trust.
Right.
That's really the foundation.
No more trying to keep it all up here.
Exactly.
Write it down, type it in, whatever works.
Yeah, get it out.
But then what?
Then that's where the power of the next action decision comes in.
Okay.
Instead of staring at this huge project or this overwhelming task list, just ask yourself, what's the very next physical action I can take to move this forward?
So instead of write that report, it's open a new document.
Exactly.
Brainstorm an outline.
Exactly. You're shifting from this vague intention to a very concrete step.
It makes it so much easier to start.
So much easier. Yeah, it really does.
And this also reminds me how GTD ties into those 6 levels of work that we were just discussing.
It does, yeah.
We start with those tiny next actions, but they're ultimately connected to our bigger purpose.
They are, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's not just about efficiency.
No, it's not just about getting things done.
It's about aligning your actions with what matters.
What truly matters, yeah.
It's much more holistic.
It is, yeah.
Work and life all together.
It encompasses all of it.
Well, this has been such an insightful deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I'm finally understanding not just the steps of GTD, but the philosophy behind it.
I think that's key, yeah.
The why behind it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for our listeners before we sign off here?
Remember, GTD is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
So start with the basics, experiment, find what works for you.
Okay.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, I encourage you, give GTD a try.
Absolutely.
See if it can help you achieve that mind-like water state.
I think you'll be surprised.
And the rewards are worth it.
They are.
Greater clarity, control, focus.
Who wouldn't want that?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So with that, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive on getting things done. We hope you found it insightful and that you're feeling inspired to create a more productive and fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.